Black and brown creatives, understand me. L.O.S.T Creatives Podcast is here. I am looking for you. L.O.S.T Creatives Podcast. You trying to get it out there? DM me. I will shout out your work. I will drop links to your work. This is free. You don't have to give me a penny. I just want your time and your story, good brother. I just want your time and your story, good sister. We have our platform now. Let's get out there. This is what's up. This is what you need to do. I want your work to be out there, and I'm waiting on you. Tell me a story. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, and all of y'all to the L.O.S.T Creatives Podcast. I am your host, Ijlal Abdullah Muhammad, and as usual, we about to get into some things. Today, I have yet again another very special guest. This good brother came by way of recommendation, something that I very much love. That is very much a keystone to the L.O.S.T Creative Podcast. When creatives reach out to other creatives to help other creatives, black and brown, and I'm very much for that. So I love when I find creatives who inspire me and I get to speak with them, I get to interview them. But I really love when someone that I've already interviewed reaches out to someone else and says, hey, you got to do the L.O.S.T Creative Podcast. And that is very much how I was able to get in contact with this good brother, Arande. Who's an excellent painter. He referred this good brother to me, and I looked at his work, and I definitely understand why he would refer him to me. And his work is amazing, and we are most certainly going to get into his work, his creative journey, as we always do. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce this good brother here. He is an Emmy award-winning artist, illustrator, and storyteller with an extraordinary career. He's the creative force behind the iconic Brother Man, director of Discipline, which earned him a nomination for the prestigious Will Eisner Award for Best Artist. He's also a double Glyph Comics Award recipient and was awarded the Key to Kansas City for his contributions to children's well-being. His talent has earned him a Lifetime Achievement Award from the East Coast Black Age of Comics Convention, and his work is featured in the prominent collections of institutions like the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. This brother is doing it and has done it. Ladies and gentlemen, black and brown creatives everywhere, please put your hands together for Philadelphia's own Dawud Anyabwile.
Thank you. Thanks.
Did I say that right? Did I get the last name right, brother?
It's Anyabwile. A is I.
Anyabwile.
Yeah.
Anyabwile.
Yeah.
Anyabwile. Okay, my bad.
Good.
Yes, but please clap it up for the good brother. How's everything going, good brother Dawud?
Oh man, everything's going great. Loving life and just having the opportunity to wake up another day and create.
Just having another. That's a T-shirt right there. Having another opportunity to wake up and create.
There you go.
And that you do. I like I said just a minute ago, before introducing you, I love when I'm referred by other people, and I was looking at your stuff, and it's truly amazing. I'm very psyched to hear your creative journey, and I most certainly can see why it is that you have inspired others, to do what they do and to also bring up your name when they're talking about their creative journey. So I most certainly want to cut to the chase. Let's jump straight into it. As we do on the L.O.S.T Creative Podcast, we like to break up the creative journey into 3 chapters: start, middle, and present, because obviously your journey is still going. And you've done so, titling the very first chapter, Sketching Dreams, the Early Canvas. Go ahead, good brother.
Well, I would say my journey started as early as I can remember. As long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be an artist. Going always back. I guess the earliest I could think is kindergarten. When you get the finger painting. Whenever they say it's finger painting time, that's when I lose my mind. And it's like, I make something up, and I used to love that. Like first grade, just drawing silly stuff, racing cars and wolves and dinosaurs and things like that. And I had three older brothers, and one of them, my oldest brother, he since passed away, but at the time he was he went more into engineering and science and things like that. But when I was little, he was, I'll say, like 8 years ahead of me. So he would draw like these cool pictures, and he did animation. He did like full animation in the basement. So this is like 1970 or 71. So for him to do like cutouts, basically think of like how South Park is cut out and things.
Yeah.
He was doing stuff like that, like space adventures in the basement, doing stop motion. He knew how to do like transporting, make it look like we're beaming up to the Enterprise.
Self-taught?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my other brother picked up on it and went further with it. But I just remember he was the first influence in terms of like somebody close to me who actually drew a picture that to me looked good, and I would try to copy his pictures. But he didn't really pursue drawing. It was like something that he just did, and then he moved away to he went to Howard University, then out to Rice University, and then out to the West Coast. So he was pretty much out the West Coast. So growing up, arts was always something that was cultivated in the home. Like my mother played the piano, so the house, there's always classical music, like jazzy type music, classic soul. Philly's the classic soul city. So a lot of Delphonics and Intruders and all that stuff. Growing up on that, and my father. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Patti LaBelle's from Philly, ain't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
It's a lot of that was pretty much the vibe. That was kind of like just the natural vibe. And then my father, he was more an activist, and he was more of the writer. When I say writer, like a research writer, like writing book. He wrote books on the Black family. Matter of fact, my first book cover was when I was 11 years old, and I did the cover for one of his books called Rites of Passage for Black Youth. Right. And he wrote books on rites of passage, marriage ceremony, Umoja Karamu, which was a unity feast, like in lieu of Thanksgiving. We come together anyway, so we should celebrate our history and get to understand who we are. So that's what my father was doing during that time. So that was big in the home. So they always encouraged us to, like, creativity wasn't hindered in the house. It was encouraged. And I had different sides. Like my mom would be more like the creative side. Be aware of what it is that what is it that you're creating? What does it mean? And my dad was more like, whatever you create, you should own it.
Wow.
So that was kind of just the norm. And now growing up, I'm not gonna lie, I did my silly drawings, and I was into cartoons, comics. It didn't mean anything. It was like I'm just drawn to, like, I want to make animation, I want to make comic books, and I didn't know anybody professionally, and I didn't know, like, I think during that time, like now in the era we're in now with social media and stuff like that, children have access to professionals. They have access to seeing what everybody's doing all over the world. Yeah. We're, growing up in Philly, you didn't really know what kids, you just knew what kids were doing in your neighborhood. You didn't even know what they were on the east side of your neighborhood.
On the other side,
Yeah, and nevertheless, deeper into the city. So you kind of pull from your own recollections, and you're not the positive side is that you don't wake up with intimidations. You just wake up to create. you're not thinking about what somebody else did that's thorough because you don't know what they're doing. So
Right.
your drawing is thorough. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you just be in your world creating constantly nonstop. So so that was like that was one portion of the early days. And then I had a love for comic books come third grade. This brother moved in across the street from me, and I didn't know about like comic books. And he asked me, if I knew anything about the Hulk and Spider-Man. He said Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America. I was like, yo, what are you talking about? And I just I went over his house and he showed me his comic book collection, and that blew my mind. I was like, and I didn't really read them too much. I just liked the drawings, and it was Marvel comics. I wasn't into DC. It was just Marvel comics. And we sit on the front steps and just draw every day. I still have my drawings from third grade. I had my first comic book that I made in third grade called The Protectors. And so me and him would sit out front and we'll copy out of comic books and draw comics, and other kids in the neighborhood would come over. And then my other brother, he made like movies, like live action movies, and do special effects. And then I would actually animate. And we were figuring these things out, just getting like Fantastic Films magazines, all those old magazines that kind of show you a little trick, how to backwind Super 8 film, and we also made this creature. I should have brought it up because I still have the armature that my brother made. They were stop motion, like those old Sinbad movies, and because we were into that.
Oh, okay.
So we actually built a character. He created the armature, and I did the clay sculpture on it. And we did this at 13 and 14 years old, where he took ball bearings and metal rods and cut things, and you make a skeleton out of it. And then, it has a mouth. It just basically looked like a skeleton, like bones. And then we made a whole movie about this alien, and we built the terrain in our bedroom and stuff. And I remember showing somebody at Turner Studios, like fast forward when I was working professionally, and I showed them the character, and they said, man, this is like industry standard now. You guys did that how long ago? I said, oh man, we like 13 or 14. That was just looking in the back of a magazine and baking it in my mom's oven, and she flipped out when we did that because the foam latex you had to order from California, and it stinks. That's what you had to do to create the, we'll create the clay mold, and then you got to pour the foam latex in, and then you take the clay out, and then the character is, he's rubbery. But it stunk up the whole house because it's industrial grade.
Oh man.
Things like that. My mom and dad, they went through it, but they knew we were trying to be creative, and it kept us off the streets. And because it does keep you off the streets, because you don't want to be in the streets. You want to finish your project,
right?
You know what I mean? So we were really home a lot, and our house was like the go-to place. A lot of kids in the neighborhood will come over and say, hey, what y'all working on now? Because we would get a new movie. Back then, we have to wait after you shoot something. You send the film out and you wait for it to get developed. And then when you come out, we go in the basement and get the Super 8 film projector, and the kids come down the basement, and they were silent. So then we would just play music through the stereo and have our 3D characters moving around. And this is like, like I said, we were like preteens and then teenagers doing this. And that was pretty cool time, and then for me, I burned my comic collection when I was like 11 years old. That was another story right there, because I was all in on Marvel comics and all that stuff. And I had to sit down with my dad one time, and he was asking me about the images in the comics, because he I guess now that I'm older, I could see what he was seeing. Like, cause I was consumed, I'm wearing Captain.
Right.
And you couldn't tell me like at that age, you couldn't tell me anything about Marvel. I would shut you down, like, because I'll be Marvel, like person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because when my mom said, Oh, I think she said draw a teacher. And my mom was a public school teacher in North Philadelphia elementary school. And I had to draw something with a teacher, and I drew this old white lady with a bun on her. And my mom said, is that a teacher? And I was like, yeah. And she said, don't you know I'm a teacher? You know what I mean? It's like, I look right past my mom because I'm looking at the images in the comics that I'm drawing every day. So that starts to become the reality in my mind of what a hero is, what beauty is. You see what I'm saying? Like if it says draw a beautiful woman, I'll draw Susan Storm.
Right.
You know, Invisible Girl or something like that.
Yeah.
And so my dad, he sat me down my comics, and he said, how many of these comics have black characters in them? And I was excited to talk to my dad about comics, and I'm like, okay, I'm putting my dad on game. He's gonna talk about some comics, So I pulled down my comics, and he said, okay, how many? I had like 1,000 that I saved up. And that's a story in itself. But so my dad was like, okay, how many of these have black characters in it? So, I was like, Luke Cage, you got Black Panther, Black Goliath. And this is like 1975, 76,
okay.
5th grade, like, 5th grade, 6th grade, something like that. And that was about it. So, but all the rest of them were white heroes and aliens and whatnot that outnumbered the black characters. Then he said, let's go into these books and let's analyze the stories. So if you look at the early, like Luke Cage is not now Luke Cage.
Exactly.
And there was a pre-Brother Man Luke Cage and a post-Brother Man Luke Cage. When Brother Man comics came out, what we did transformed really how people were seeing black images in comics, because we were showing like a diverse range of black characters. And then all of a sudden that's what changed in the comic industry. That's pretty much standard now. But when Brother Man came out, that's what Brother Man's known for, that we shifted that in the comic industry. And I would say we were instrumental. Of course, there were other people I wouldn't take away from them that also contributed as well, because a lot of them are my friends. But Brother Man was the one that was really like making waves and shifting that. And a lot of people, they recognize it for that. But this is before Brother, I'm a little kid back then. So my dad was showing us how there was like a lot of racist tropes in the comics and things like that. And I was like, what? Because back then I didn't have money. My parents would give me lunch money to go to school and eat. And I would save my lunch money and not eat so I could buy comic books after school. So when I was in school, I'd be bumming off my friends. Yo, man, can I get a piece of your sandwich? Hey, man, can I get some chips? And they'd be like, man, you don't never had no money. And I'd be like, true. I was stacking up on comic books. I didn't care if they were clowning me. And then I realized, like, man, I'm starving myself, and this is what they think of me. So, and my dad said, so my parents had the fireplace going one night, and I came downstairs with all my comics, and my dad was like, hey, what you doing? And I said, no, I don't want these no more. Because in my mind, I felt like they didn't even need to exist. Like, I didn't even want to give them this. I just want to get rid of them. And he said, well, I ain't tell you to do all that. I just want you to be aware of what's in it. So he didn't tell me to burn them. It was just in my young mind. I just felt like it had a grip on my mind. Because I was in the FOOM, FOOM, Friends of Old Marvel. It was like a little, and really, when I think back on it, it's not really like a bad thing. It was just, these things happen to young minds. Disney makes stuff, Marvel makes stuff, anime makes stuff. And then what happens is it becomes so influential on our young minds that we get lost in their creativity, that we forget that we have a story to tell. Because we're immersed in their mythology. We're immersed in their storytelling, and their storytelling is powerful. So I'm not even saying it is bad.
I mean, I might also add that a lot of it is also very intentional too.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what my father was saying. My father was just saying, make sure you know. And with my mom, like I had How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which I actually learned a lot. How to draw like comic books, storytelling, staging, how to make stuff more dynamic instead of being straight up and down like this, make it more dynamic like this, you know,
Right.
like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, right.
you know, so I don't knock it and say there's nothing good in it. It's just you have to have a balance of understanding. And at that time, my mom, she was looking at the book, and in the book it was telling you how to draw a woman, just like I was saying, how to draw a beautiful woman. And it had Invisible Girl, Susan Storm as the face to draw the head and the you know, the center line, eye line, nose line, yada yada. And then it said draw, and if you have the book, you can go look at it now. You know, I'm not making this up.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, draw lips thin and pleasing. Don't draw them too thick. Draw nose thin, not too wide. And my mom said, don't draw lips thick, don't draw nose wide. She said, it's telling you not to draw your own mother.
Not to draw your own.
I was like, what? And this was all like coming at me like as a kid, because I was just like, Mom, how you talk about Marvel, Mom? Like, you know, this Marvel. You know, my goal was to one day get to Marvel.
Yeah.
You know, I would look at the credits like, man, was it 525 Madison Avenue? I still remember. And then, because my family from Jersey City, so we were always up.
Okay.
Our second home being in Jersey City, New York, and all that. And I remember one time passing Madison Avenue, and I said, "Man, Marvel's like some around here somewhere." You know, it was hard, you know, like I'm near Marvel. You know what I'm saying? And then once my parents broke that down to me, and I burned them, it's really. And I had Inhumans #1. I had Daredevil. I had 12-cent Daredevils. You know, those things I could probably cash in now, because I remember I told this story to some people at a get together a few years ago, and one brother said, "Man, you know how much those books are worth?" I said, "Man, you know how much my mind is worth?" I said, "See, that's the problem. We always look at this financial trade-off as opposed to our psychological value."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I said, I don't care how much it was worth. I said, well, technically, yeah. If it would have been cool if I kept it, because number one, I could show you here's what my dad showed me, and then number two, I could trade them in and get back all the money that I sacrificed for lunch back in the mid '70s. But you know, it's gone. And the thing is, the trade-off was that they no longer had a grip on my mind. I didn't look at Marvel like, I still liked it, but I didn't praise it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's like you know, a Marvel movie comes out, you know, I could appreciate it. I said, oh man, they got, you know, and I'll remember some of the, they brought out such and such character, but I'm not jocking it to the point where it's like, that's my life. I'll be like, okay, they told their story, cool. I got stories to tell too. So I don't knock it. I don't hate it. I just said, I'm glad that I broke the grip that it had on my mind like this. And seeing at that point, my oldest brother came home and gave me a record, and it was had a red label. This is 1979, and it said Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 Super Rapping. Play this. And before that, I had never heard a rap record, because rap was like brand new.
Brand new then, yeah.
It was just, especially in being on wax. And I put that on, and it was like dudes talking on top of a beat. It was so like mind-boggling that kind of replaced the excitement that I had for Marvel. Now the hip hop. So when I got to like 15 years old, I started DJing, and in Philly we had Lady B radio show, and Lady B was one of the first rap shows in the country. And she was you know, so it was kind of like all this stuff was inspiring like artistic creativity, because to me, Grandmaster Flash, Fearless 4, Treacherous 3, they were like the new superheroes to me, and they were like real people. Right. So now I'm like, instead of drawing the comics, I'm drawing my friends and the stuff we were doing. Like if we went to a party and something happened at the party, somebody came and they stole some equipment or whatever, I would illustrate, hey, here's what happened. You know what I mean? And I put it in comic book form, like in high school. Everybody always wanted copies of it. Yo, man, run me a copy of that. Run me a copy of that. And that's really where it first started, like telling stories about what we do. as opposed to just rehashing. I'm gonna draw Spider-Man doing this. I'm gonna draw
Right.
Hulk doing this. I'm
Right.
further endorsing their characters and pushing their characters into the lexicon of the next generation, as opposed to use this time to create something that leaves a trail of what we did or what we were into during our era. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, so and there's a lot in this era, so feel free to chime in and add if there's anything specific, because when I got to high school, that's when I first got into fine arts. I was a fine arts major in high school. I went to Central High School in Philly, and at the time, Mr. Harmon, Bernard Harmon, that was my high school art teacher. He was one of the art teachers who was winning awards throughout. His students were winning awards throughout the city, and that's one of the reasons why I went there, because it was Philadelphia's last all-male public high school, and it was an academic high school. It's very well known in terms of their academic success. Matter of fact, Bill Cosby went there, and I'm trying to think there's some other greats. This one fine artist went there a long time ago. The painting with the woman sitting in the field and she's pointing. She's pointing at a farmhouse in the distance. It's a real famous painting, but he went to Central High School. But so when I got into fine arts, that's when I started doing like figure drawing, gesture drawing, composition, lighting, all that type of stuff. And then I was also into hip hop, because I had friends. We had our little DJ crew.
Yeah.
And, getting into DJ battles and things like that. And then also like graffiti was big in Philly. Like, so I'm sitting right next to one brother from West Philly who actually put me onto the hand styles and like, here's how you read the scripts and all that stuff. So I started really getting into the graffiti scene and stuff like that. And so I always saw like, how do I mash all of this up? Comics, graffiti, fine art, and at that, see, like now that's commonplace now.
Yeah, it is.
When I was trying to figure this out, it wasn't happening like that. Fine arts was over here, graffiti was over here. Hip hop had like graffiti characters, like characters on the side pointing at your name, but it wasn't really like a lot of the murals, like the faces you see. Like that's new. I was foreseeing that back before you was seeing it on the walls. Back then, it would be more like a cartoony, like a Smurf character or Parliament Mothership or something like that, But I was like, man, how do I take it where I could take something that Mr. Harmon taught me and mash that up with, our Deaf Outlaw artist DOA crew style, like this. And then, we made our own tracks and beats and stuff like that. And I said, and that could be the soundtrack. And all this is really what led up to eventually Brother Man coming out in 1990. You know what I'm saying? And that's why people jumped on it, and why it reached so many people is because it had all those different elements. It wasn't a one-dimensional product. It was pulling in hip-hop kids, artistic kids, students, comic book heads. We were shipping as far as like Japan. Like we had fans in Japan. We had celebrities like this is kind of like jumping ahead, but this is what evolved out of it. Like when I found out Lauryn Hill was a fan, I sat down with her. Sam Jackson was a fan. Das Effects, Crazy Legs, Cool Herc. All people are buying, like, because when you're making something, you're just putting out. You don't know, like as an artist, you make something, put it out. We don't know who's looking at it until they walk up to you, and you're like, people that you're admiring, like they know you.
They know you, yeah.
Like, wait, what? Because as artists, we're in our, we're in our quiet.
We're just doing our thing.
Yeah. That's the rewarding part, is when you share, like when you share with the world, and you actually get out. The work is done, and now it's the boomerang effect. Now
Mm.
it's all coming back to you.
So before you hash out any more of what it all became, um, I want you to be able to do that throughout your, throughout your next chapters. But I got too many questions, so I'm
Hey,
going.
take,
So for the sake of time, I'm going to try to chop some of them up here. Um, you said so many things that were that very interesting. It brought back many memories for myself, and there were also some things that I always find very. I'm always taken aback whenever I hear it expressed from a creative. Um, I love when a creative that I'm interviewing says somewhere in their beginnings a sibling played a major influence
Mhm.
in what they started to do. Um, and as I said before on other episodes, likewise with you, it was my older brother. He was he's 3 years older than me, so I see him drawing, and then I would want to draw.
Mhm.
And that would consistently push me um, to want to draw, to get better at drawing, and it always I find that to be very commonplace with any creative I speak with that has siblings.
Mhm.
It always goes back to that. A sibling was doing this or doing that, and it moved them. I was speaking with Ken West, another excellent illustrator, and he was all his siblings, as a matter of fact, were very creative. And he said his older brother very much played a major part in influencing him. Um, the other thing that I find very interesting is when a creative it tells me that they were doing something at a young age that no one else was doing, you know. And I remember I was speaking with DeMar Douglas. He's an excellent painter, and he had mentioned to me that he also had like a comic book crew when he was coming up,
Mhm.
and they had created this world, like this underwater world. It was just out of sight. Then he told me he did this in the 3rd grade. And I was like, that's amazing that's where your mind was at.
Yeah.
Um, and not even when it comes to drawing, just the creative spirit. I speak with Erica Dunlap, excellent photographer who's also an excellent painter as well. She told me that she would she was she was so good at making up stories that people would come to her if whenever they got in trouble, and they would pay her for her to make a lie up. So that, it's crazy. I'm serious. She was getting paid. She was getting paid to do this. Her and the way she would break it down, she would say, "Okay, what are you looking to get out of it? What are you trying to avoid? Okay, tell me where you were. Tell me, who you want this to understand. Who you want to understand this." Like and she was, once again, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. She's doing this stuff. I mean, it's just the creative mind. It's such a young age. It's outstanding. And then when you're telling me, you guys were doing an industry standard for animation, at like 13, it's just it's. I said this before, and I'll say again. There is nothing like a creative person and a creative mind. What we give to the world is truly amazing. The comic book influence. I know it all too well. I know it on the side of the child, and I know it on the side of the parent.
Mhm.
I remember I got into comic books when I was also in grade school. I didn't care. I didn't like reading a lot. I really did.
Mhm.
And because of that, it affected my reading. So my mother, she was also a grade school teacher. She was speaking with the Black history teacher at school. I don't know how the conversation started, but anyway, he was the one who told her, he's the one that told her he had the same problem, and it was comic books that got him to read more, and then that developed his reading. And then my mother, told me, and then I actually went to the same school that she taught at. So when I was speaking with the Black history teacher, and he was the first person to give me a comic book, and that opened up my mind to comics. But same thing. My parents were always try to make us aware of the fact that you be aware of who you are when it comes to your creativity. Right. Because you don't see a lot of it out here. Fast forwarding, my daughter, very much into anime, she started to draw animation characters. Very good. Very good. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that none of these characters look like you. Mm-hmm. So I told her that. I said, baby, I love what you're doing, and these look really good. You're getting better every day, but draw someone who looks like you, or looks like your mother, or looks like your sister, or looks like your brother. And she did. She actually did. She had like a little series of it. And then she kind of went back to the, and that was all right. It's cool because, I just wanted to plant that seed, and make you aware, like, look, just understand that this puts an image in your head, and believe it or not, it plays an effect on how you see the world. What you find beautiful, what you don't find beautiful,
It's really like you don't want to be creative police,
right?
But you also, as a parent, like, you don't want to be that person where it's like, wow, I never spoke to my child about something that you saw. So right. Like, you plant the seed, but then now make your decision. Like I said, my dad didn't say burn it. He didn't tell me what to do. He just put it in my mind. I made the decision. You see what I'm saying? So you did the same thing. So she said, she did it. Now she knows, hey, I could do both. But there's probably something that she sees in the other one right now that maybe later on in life will come back to the things that you're talking about. But she got to get this first.
Exactly. And I knew that, and my wife knew that, so it was just like, we felt it was important to at least have the conversation so you understand. It's good. And like you said, it later on, it may make a different type of thing where she's just focused on the representation of her. But I had the same thing I had to say to my son. I had to show him, like, there's a lot of stereotypes in anime, big time, with a lot of the black characters, and I remember at first I had to point something out to him is Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, and there was this, I forgot what his role was, but he was just
Jet Black character.
Jet Black, with big old lips, red lips, and I had to let him. And he didn't pick up on that, but I was like, no, that's a stereotypical drawing that's done intentionally. There was another black character in there they called Satan for no reason. Like, it was just, but you know how it is. So, it's funny that it's interesting that, there are things that we battle as creatives growing up, that in particular, as black creatives growing up, having to, like you said, having to realize, oh snap, I have an image of a beautiful woman in my head as a white woman because this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm drawing, and that my father did me that. I would always draw a triangle, like a pointed nose when I was younger, and he had to put me on, like, that's not what your nose looks like, and then he showed me how to draw a nose, a black nose, and ever since then I was like, okay, I didn't, and I made the connection quickly. I'm not going to belabor this point anymore, but I'm just going to say this. We grew up in a home that was, my parents were very, very, for lack of a better word, pro-black. They put a huge emphasis on making sure we knew who we are, who we are in this world, where we came from. And even though that was my foundation, because of the art that influenced me, because of what I was seeing, I would still draw these European looking characters, Yeah. And then all he had to do was just point something out to me, and I was like, okay, I got it. But the creative inspiration in the neighborhood, I remember when I was living in Queens, we had a comic book club. Well, there was a comic club on the block. I didn't make the cut at the time because I didn't draw good enough to make the cut at the time. But I was like the flunky, But it was good. It was good for me. I needed that because it made me continue to get better. Anyway, and these were young guys. The oldest one was what, 12? And all this brilliant art, man. I don't even know what they're doing with it today. And I remember they even came up with, they made, stitched, sewed, whatever, suits. They would put on like these suits and they would run down the street chasing each other. It was crazy. It was crazy. And it's just like, I think about, what are those creative minds doing now? It's stuff that people would put on social media now, and make something out of it. They were doing then, it's really interesting. Question for you. Your mother said, be aware of what you create. I think that's amazing, that she would tell you that. How much of that statement that your mother would tell you played a role in Brother Man?
Well, actually, I would say even beyond Brother Man, because Brother Man was a manifestation of the lifetime of teachings. Just like you said in your home, it's a lifetime of teachings that manifest into anything you create, and maybe things you have yet to create. Say you create 5 years from now, it's not like it came up 5 years from now. It's an extension of who you were your whole life and your experiences. So with my mom, I say my mom and my dad, because they had a symbiotic relationship. Like dad had that lion heart, and my mom was the nurturer, right, creative. And I would lay under the piano while my mom's playing the piano. She'll bring home stacks of drawing paper from school and just let me draw, and I'll lay under and listen to like how her feet are on the piano key. The pedals. Yeah. Her fingernails like trying to get that song right, playing it over and over and over again, and I'm drawing underneath the table. So it always felt like a creative fortress, like little, like protected, and I could create, and she's encouraging it by creating this soundtrack. And so both her and my dad, they always emphasized the family. Like, it's important that we keep a family together, particularly Black family together, and that's how we shift the dynamics of our community. And like I said, with having those rituals and things that my dad created, because that was the name of his company, Black Family Rituals. Yeah. And it's like you're so much a part of it that it does go out into the streets, because we grew up on Kwanzaa like since 71. Matter of fact, my dad wrote the first book on Kwanzaa and how to use it in the home, because when it first came around, people didn't know how to use it in the home. Wow. So my dad and my brother Guy wrote this book called the Kwanzaa Handbook, and that was the first handbook to show people how to celebrate Kwanzaa in the home. And then then in '85, me and my brother Guy, who's the writer for Brother Man, but at that time we did the first Kwanzaa children's book called Kwanzaa Kids Learn the Seven Principles, and it was our way of saying, like, when we go to these Kwanzaa events, it seemed like adults are talking to adults and kids are running around because kids don't really know what they're talking about. So we wanted to take seven principles and put it in a medium that kids can understand. And it was fun, and it was kind of like layman's terms, and we just had like 7 cool kids that live in the neighborhood, like a variety of kids, like twin little girls and cool boy and stuff like that, over heavy set boy who plays the drums named Drummer, like that. And see, all those things come from those. That's why I said Brother Man was an extension of all of that. And one thing I remember my mom said to me when I started drawing like hip hop characters and stuff like that, she never said don't draw it. She said it's important that you do it. And she said, because this is your generation, and you're a historian documenting what you and your friends are doing now. And in the future, people are going to look back at it, and they're going to look for your material to find out what y'all did. Because if you won't do it, other people are going to say what you did.
Yep.
And so as a teenager, I always felt like, hey, I'm a historian. So I'm not just drawing. I'm documenting and I'm drawing. Like, I knew ahead of time that, like, it's funny looking back on it now, I could pull out the pictures, like what it looked like, in Philly when they had the, because New York had a certain style, because I knew from being in Jersey City and stuff, and I knew the distinct style between New York and how Philly style was. I would draw the difference. I would even do a compare and contrast drawing. Yeah, I mean, we did so many things that's kind of hilarious, but they were cool,
Which one do you think was better? The New York style or the Philly style?
Now, it was like, and I can even, because even when my cousins came down from like Jersey City, all my cousins, my friends, they'd be like, oh man, that's your cousins from New York, blah, 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 and they always had like the Baby Bambaataa shows, cool Red Alert shows. I don't know, we always saw it like, there was camaraderie in it with us. We just liked it, Philly had stuff that was different, and they had stuff that was different. And so it was just, everything was just all new back then and exciting.
Yeah.
But to your point, that traveled with me, because when I was 19, that's when I first started airbrushing at the mall. Because I knew in Queens, y'all had the Shirt Kings, and in Philly, it was me. So it was the same era, but I was doing like heads in Philly, and they were doing like all the, the New York heads. And so I was like pioneering it in Philly. And then when I had my own airbrush shop in North Philly, after I left the mall, I had an airbrush shop in North Philly. And I remember during that time, because things were changing, like you have a lot of dudes coming in, like drug dealers and stuff like that, shirts. And, I treat everybody as a customer. They come in, I don't know what you do. You want you on a shirt, I put you on a shirt. I don't know what your economic system is. But when they start asking me to do like contraband, stuff like that, this is where my mom and dad are in my head. I can make my own decision and say, well, these dudes got money. I'm just going to take the money. I didn't take the money. And I knew I was taking a risk, because, you know how it is coming up in those eras where you can't tell. Some brothers don't know how to take no. So they want to get into confrontation when they're not respecting that you have a rule and a standard. Like, yo, this is a family business, even though it's like a hole in the wall type joint in North Philly. To me, I looked at it as, in my mind, it's like the Disney store.
Right.
As
you should.
Yeah, but back then, it's like $125 rent, and it's like in the hood type place. But I always looked at it like we made it look nice, and people would come in like, yo, y'all need to be in Hollywood. That's how it was. So when dudes would come in and do that, I remember particularly one dude, he wanted like a shirt that said like Coke is it. So I said, yo, man, I don't do shirts like that. And then he pulled out a knot of money and threw it in front of me, talking about like, you think I don't have no money? And I was like, it don't have nothing to do with money. This is a family store. And at this point I'm like 20, 21, and I said, this, we don't do things like that here. And so I could tell dude wanted to get a little hostile, but then I said, hey, how about this? And then I sketched a picture of him holding money, right? And he said, yo, that's it. Yo, do that. And so I knew he just kind of wanted to floss, and I had to be the one to creatively take what he's trying to do, because that's not his MO. Like, that's not how he's in this world with his mind. I'm translating that into a way that it's palatable to the world. You see what I'm saying? So then I had his name going down the side, TikTok down the side, and then he brought all his friends back, and then they end up being our friends and looking out for the shop.
Nice.
And that's when I started learning. That's why when Brother Man came out and people said, did you know the book was going to have this impact? Like, how did you know? I say, I spent like years on the streets airbrushing and dealing with community people. I know how my people are. I know what we've been lacking in terms of like entertainment. A lot of us, we just want to see ourselves. We want to see ourselves in entertainment. So we said when this comes out, I said, we're going to be making $1 million off of this. I mean, we did close to 750,000 books in the early 90s. That's no social media, no advertisements. That was us just in the car driving all around the country, and we had a lot of, and we always pushed press releases and things like that. So we really got millions of dollars of free advertisement every time people did stories on us, from Arsenio Hall. We was on America's Most Wanted, just about every major U.S. paper. And then stories were just snowballing. We were written up in an article out of Japan. We didn't even know we were in that article in Japan.
Nice.
We just got a random letter from Tokyo, and somebody sent us the magazine, and they bookmarked it. And we didn't even know who the people were. And it was in Japanese, and it was a story about us working on Brother Man. And so to me, it was like all those things that my parents had taught us is what the Brother Man comic was. And we liked sci-fi, because Brother Man wasn't a ghetto book. Like some people try to make it seem like, oh, if it's black, it's ghetto, it's hood.
Right.
It's like, no, it's a universe that we created. Big City was like this place that would dwarf Hong Kong. Like, it's massive, they got big city, massive transit. We had all the we created the map, had all the neighborhoods, stuff that you see now in video games, all that world building you see in video games. We were doing that before the video game explosion. So for a lot of people, they couldn't fathom, like, is this New York or is this Philly? And we said, no, it's an alternate dimension. Because we were into sci-fi. And actually what you see with AI now was really what I was trying to draw. I was trying to draw our dreams, because Brother Man is like a dream.
Nice.
So we call it dream state mythology. So it's like, like say I'm talking to you now in this interview, and then if I go to bed tonight and this is the residual of this interview was in my mind, but I can't remember your name in the dream, but your persona is in the dream.
Right.
So persona would be the character in this universe. So it's the same persona with this and that. There's no Nike, there's no Adidas. It's all us doing what we do, but it's the same energy and feel of this world in another dimension. And that was the thing about Brother Man, because nobody was doing anything like that back then. And we had like all these movie deals offered to us back then, like Motown, Columbia Television. Even, like I said, when I met with Lauryn Hill, she wanted to do the movie. And with different people, there was different reasons why we didn't do the deals. Because with my family, we weren't looking to go to Hollywood. We were looking to build our own. It wasn't about comics. Brother Man was never about comics. Big City Comics, which was our original company, it was never about us trying to be Marvel or whatever. It was, we're going to create our own we're going to create our own entertainment conglomerate, and Brother Man is the vanguard, like Mickey Mouse to Disneyland.
I get you.
So we wanted to do movies and film, like the stuff, like we said, we were doing animation and stuff. The comics was like, oh, I want to make a comic book. It wasn't like I was a diehard comic fan. I burned my comics. It was just brother Guy who wrote the book. Guy never collected comics. He's a writer. Guy writes plays, poetry, you name it. He could write screenplays. So he said, oh yeah, I'll write a comic. That's how Brother Man started. So people were thinking like we were comic book heads, and we were like, nah, this actually had more to do with us building something for the community. So then in the future, like basically like what Tyler Perry did, buying the land and all that.
Right.
That's what I'm envisioning years before there even was a Tyler Perry production studio.
So let's
sorry.
No, you're all good. Like you firing on all cylinders, good brother. Let's take that and make it an excellent transition into chapter 2, which you titled Shaded Vision, Navigating Doubt and Determination.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, Shaded Vision, actually, that was a story that me and my brother Guy wrote in the mid 80s. And, it was a concept of a story, I'll put it like that, about these seniors in high school. And the valedictorian, that was the title of his valedictorian speech was Shaded Vision, because we're all going out here into this world with our ideas of what we want to be, but we don't know if it's actually going to happen or not.
Right.
So like, we can see it, but it's not fully manifested. So to me, that's how I think of that era of when Brother Man started. Brother Man was like, oh, we know, man. Because I said, man, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I wasn't trying to be a millionaire out of flossing. It was so then we can finance our own films. We can green light our own stuff. Even when we had those movie deals, we never went hat in hand to these places. They were calling us up. Saban Entertainment that did Power Rangers, they called us up when first we only had Brother Man 2, I think, at the time. And then Arsenio Hall, Arsenio Hall talked about Brother Man. We only had 2 issues out, working on the 3rd one. So we could see, like, man, is this really going to happen? I mean, when Arsenio Hall, when we knew he was going to be on, I think that Monday night, because they hit us up on a Friday, they want us to express mail the comics and stuff. And they said, Arsenio wants to talk about it on his show. And that's when Arsenio Hall was smoking hot.
Yeah.
He's going to talk about our book? We're making a book out of a 2-bedroom apartment. So, at the time, we had just moved from North Jersey to Dallas, Irving, Texas. And that's a story in itself. But I remember my knees were shaking like that night it came on. Like, is he really going to talk about it? Sure enough, he did like almost a 2-minute monologue at the beginning of the show. And everybody was talking about Brother Man then, like, because it was so new. So coming new was a comic book about a Black superhero. And now that's kind of commonplace, so people probably can't really understand the magnitude of that during that time. And it was almost like, man, it was like making tears come out of your eyes, like, yo, is happening? But we didn't have social media, we didn't have email, so you don't get an immediate response. It's just, we just made sure we had the VHS tape and recorded it. And then we're doing trade shows. People say, yeah, I saw that on Arsenio Hall. Now, it was happening like that.
Right.
I thought it was a joke. I didn't know it was real. And so during that time, like a lot of things were happening. A lot of studios were calling us. Even Joel Schumacher, who did the Brian Keaton Batman movie, he wanted to do Brother Man, but we had decided to go with Motown. But Suzanne DePass had contacted us. She's the one, DePass Entertainment. They did Sister, but she was also Barry Gordy's right-hand man. Vanessa Williams played her in the Jackson 5 special. The Jackson 5 Victory.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, they flew us out to LA, and it was like the hot thing. I mean, we ran to Martin Lawrence. He even knew we had a deal with Suzanne DePass. Like, the word was spreading.
Hmm.
but we didn't sign stuff because we were always aware of what the story, do y'all see what we see or do you see something else?
Right.
Because they could easily say they see Brother Man and I'm thinking they see what we see, and you turn to some jive time thing. Like, it's always easy for people to say, oh, it's about pimps and drug dealers. Where's that in the book? Profanity. I'll say, where's profanity in the book? Where's the N word in the book? I said, Brother Man, the theme was consciousness versus apathy. That's the underlying theme of the whole book. The main character, Antonio Valor.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, but see, sometimes they don't want to honor that. They don't want to honor that it's actually a multi-layered story. They just think, oh, it's a black comic book. It's probably jive and this and that. And we see so much of that out there, Undercover Brother, all that stuff that really came out during that era. I can tell you stories that was directly related to us where I was like, I know that's what they thought we were doing. And I'd rather it not be done and not sign any agreements, because we had a lot of agreements that we could have made a whole lot of money during that time. But I said, nah, I'm not going out like that where I can't hold it up. You say, hey, you the one that made that movie? I was like, I'd rather not be made than it's made, and I feel like a sucker. Like, man, I have nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I want to be proud of what I did, and so during that time, it was like there were a lot of cool things going on, but really the thing that really impacted Brother Man, because like I said, we got to like 750,000 books. Those issues I drew in the back of the van. Before I get to that, let me just, I guess for a lot of people, I'm assuming they know the story Brother Man. But like I said, the story is about this character, Antonio Valor, who lives in this fictitious city. And we called it Big City just kind of like, because it was tongue in cheek when we first started. It was like, let's just have fun. And by the third issue, we just started like getting more like layered with the stories. But he's that person who has no superpowers, but he's determined to make a difference, even if he dies. So if you think of like really true heroes, like people they talk about, that would be, you're on the subway and somebody's harassing somebody. Do you get up and do something? I got kids at home. Well, I'm going to risk my kid's life over somebody. No, but at the same time, I can't let that go down. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You were Peter Parker. Oh yeah, I'll be Spider-Man because ain't nothing gonna happen to me. There's no law. If I'm Superman, bullets are gonna bounce off of me. So are you really the true hero? Because if you took all that stuff away from them, would they do it?
Nice.
Val is the type of person where he'll do stuff, but he knows he can die. But he does it anyway because it's right and it's just. But his thing is, the thing about Brother Man Comics is that he doesn't own, like Peter Parker owns Spider-Man, Clark Kent owns Superman, Bruce Banner owns Hulk. Antonio Valor doesn't own Brother Man. It's an idea. And then we had the poem in the graphic novel. We had the poem. There'll be those who sit and stare, watching the worst go by, allowing a brother to fall in the street only to avert their eye. So it was kind of like a Last Poets type poem that him, and it was by the Unheeded Messengers, and it was called The Brother Man. But Antonio Valor, as a kid, he liked comic books. So to him, man, that sounds like a superhero. I'm gonna make it my moniker. And he cut out a B and said, I'm gonna be Brother Man. I'm gonna personify what the Unheeded Messengers said we should be. We should be the brother of our community. But it's not a jive time thing. To him, it was just like, I might die doing this, but somebody gotta do it. But he doesn't own it. So it means anybody that has that idea, because in the poem it says, for yes, anyone, but not everyone shall personify the Brother Man. Meaning anyone can be it, but everyone will not do that.
Everybody's not going to do it, right?
Right. So we were on that in the early 90s when people are talking about Black Bart Simpson. That's your black character. Thing. So when they see Brother Man, they're automatic. They go to the simple thing. Oh, it's like Undercover Brother. Oh, it's like like something simple that's out there. Like, man, this is beyond that. And they'll say, hey, they'll mention a famous rapper. Does a famous rapper be in there? Do they wear Nikes? I said, trying to get people to comprehend it's a black universe. There's no Nike, there's no Adidas, there's no well, now I'll say, like, just name a famous rapper. They have their own music, like not just rap music. They have their own genres.
Yeah.
City Metropolitan Orchestra, like, and since we made music, I would make the types of music in their world, which is kind of a mashup of, think of like Phyllis Hyman, a band that has like singers like Phyllis Hyman or somebody grimy like a Method Man in the same band with a Roy Ayers and somebody else, but they're all in one big massive group, and they can do orchestra music, they could do love ballads, they could do grimy tracks, and there's Grandmaster Flash and stuff, so they have their own history. So we created the history of their music, where it's kind of, you can have hip hop elements, but it's not called hip hop because you're dealing with another dimension. So I go even
deeper. It's definitely, you people tend to the view, the social understanding is usually two things. One, if a black person does it, then automatically it's, oh, that's for black people,
right,
and
exactly.
no one else.
Mm-hmm.
And then what it's about has to be related to whatever one dimension that they want to place us in.
Right.
In other words, it can't be multi-layered. Right. You're either this is either a thug or an entertainer. And the entertainer and the thug both they father's dead or something, the mother is alive, and it's always got to be this consistent image, and it's got to stay within that, and I remember this. I remember I was listening. What was I listening to? A podcast? Was it a podcast? Anyway, the lady had she was a black sister, and she was a psychiatrist. She worked for this company that they hired like psychiatrists, not psychiatrists, psychologists.
Okay.
Right. So they weren't. They were psychologists. So you would go there, and a psychologist would see you. Whoever's working at that time or something like that, right? So it was just a firm of psychologists. Anyway, and she said she was speaking with her colleagues who were all psychologists now, and I can't remember how the conversation broke down, but she said it dawned on her that, and she was like, it was two. It was her and another black woman, and then the rest of them were white. She said it dawned on her that these psychologists all saw black people the same way, not giving them any other like layers of their personality.
Right.
And these are psychologists. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so amazing that even someone who went to school, studying, the mind and human behavior would still, when it comes to black people, funnel them. And it makes a whole lot of sense as to why, especially when you have a name that, brother in the title. It would make a whole lot of sense as to why, as soon as someone hears it, oh, okay, I know what that's about immediately. And it can't be any more than that, and then the other funny thing is, and you said it, like, you'll be explaining it, and even within the explanation, it's still, okay, and when do they sell drugs? It's like they're still trying to get back to this idea or ideal.
Well, the sad part about that is a lot of our own people buy into that, where let's say, because I think with social media, I can see in comments, there's more people of like minds in our community who are tired of feeling outcasted because they were not of the tropes that were pushed of Black people. Like, I don't talk like that. Like, say if somebody has a passion to say, hey, I want to be a mountain climber, and then there's people putting in the comments, Black people don't do that. You know what I'm saying? I do it. I want to blah blah blah. Black people don't do that, and it's Black people telling other Black people what you don't do. And it's like, since when was there like a rule of what a human experience, where the limitation is of what a Black person do? I said, maybe you don't do that. Somebody else does that. Maybe there's things that, hey, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go skydiving and stuff. My brother skydived. My oldest brother, he skydived, mountain climb. He did all the stuff back when I was a little kid that people were saying Black people don't do, but he was adventurous. You know what I'm saying? Like jumping off the side of a mountain, going down and stuff. As a matter of fact, he went to NASA. He was studying to be an astronaut. You know what I'm saying? And he worked on the stealth bomber and stuff like that. He was that brother. Like, so to me, going and doing Brother Man, I saw all different types of personalities coming through our home. People that they had brought through, some of them were scientists. Some of these brothers were scientists, but they were like cool. They were like I didn't think of a scientist as being like this. What they always show is like Urkel, egghead.
Right.
And got the pen in. He don't know how to talk to a woman or whatever. And it's like, that's not the scientists I knew. They were like cool. They had their families and stuff like that. There was my dad's friend, Professor Drew. He used to show us like certain little scientific type stuff. When I was little, I remember I might be watching cartoons, and one of my dad's friends would be like, "Solve this equation, brother." And I'm trying to watch Ultraman. We're talking about some, you know what I'm saying? It's like, to me, those are personalities. They weren't coming in there like, hey, you want to smoke some of this? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we always see in the movies. Like, dad, well, if there is a dad in the home, if he is in the home, he's in some shady type business. And he's teaching the son how to do the shady business. Right. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, I know tons of brothers and sisters whose dads was like cool, was about like what you were saying with your children. They talk to them, they sit down. A lot of my friends used to come over my house. Some of them didn't have dads, and they told me later on, like when we're adults, hey man, I used to come over your house to talk to your dad. And see, I didn't process it back then because I'm like, hey, I thought we was gonna paint these denim jackets in the basement. I wouldn't trip over it, but I just went, man, he's up in the kitchen talking to my dad for a long time. But it's cool. I'm doing my thing. I didn't realize how important it was because my dad was that type of person. He'd be like, hey, such and such, what you doing, man? Hey, what's going on with you, man? And then my friends say, man, Dr. Sims, I couldn't get into college and whatever. Wait right there. I'm gonna make some phone calls. And they'll come back. Hey, man, I just got you into the community college in Philadelphia. And he'd be like, oh, thanks, Dr. Sims. Hey, man, your dad just got me into school. See, you see what I'm saying? Like, those are the experiences that I had. So doing Brother Man was like, yeah, I mean, you have those types of dudes that was, like I said, tagging up. But at the same time, there was it's not like they were just tagging up and there's no other dimension to them. They had aspirations to do something else. And if I didn't have my dad, I'd have been tagging up with him too, because I understood tagging up was like social media. It's like, I could do what they doing. Let me put my characters up on the wall too. But because my dad was there, and like I said, what my mom was saying, if I go out there and I'm rolling with them, I already know my dad, they would be disappointed. Right. You see, I didn't want to disappoint them. I'm not saying, I didn't do my stupid things here and there, and get persuaded by some of my friends to do certain things. Not persuaded, but it's a symbiotic.
Yeah, I can dig it. I mean, that what you're explaining, coming from someone who grew up in a mother and father in the home, married, you know what I'm saying, household brothers and sisters, they both were professionals, that's the takeaway. Not the takeaway. That's the impact. That's the word I'm looking for. That's the impact that it plays. A lot of decisions a lot of things you do, it's like, and if my mother found out about that, if my father heard that I was, and it gauges you big time, and as it should, you know what I mean? If they're doing what they should be doing as parents, it should make you second guess that, and then you grow up in neighborhoods where a lot of kids don't have that.
They don't have it.
They don't have it. And it's so interesting. Children are amazing. Okay, so obviously, I grew up in Brooklyn and then moved to Queens, and I didn't move into Long Island until I was in my teens. But you could be in the same neighborhood, more than likely have the same financial situation as the other people in the neighborhood, right? More than likely. I mean, usually that's going to be the situation. I mean, if you all go to the school in this zip code, you probably all are on welfare, so it's what it is. So very much could have the same financial situation, you all, you in the projects, they in the projects, you know what I'm saying? You got drug dealers in front of your building, he got drilled in front of, same type of social setup. But kids could tell the difference. Kids could tell that you don't come from a broken home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They could pick up on that, and it wasn't until I was older that I could actually see, because what was different about me, and it was just that you could see that there was a sense of shame when it came to certain things, sense of responsibility when it came to certain things, because your parents drilled this into you, you knew you couldn't do something even though you hated it or whatever, but you knew you couldn't, and because you couldn't do XYZ, you moved differently, whereas they could, or maybe they couldn't, but who was there to stop them? And they could see that, and in some cases it turned that turned itself into them wanting to fight you, right? Or in some cases that turned into admiration, or envy, right? They very much wanted to hang around you because they saw that from you,
Yeah.
It's a truly interesting dynamic. I think that we'll make that the transition into chapter 3, because you expressed how where it came from, the influence that it played, the impact that you wanted it to have, and all that how big it got. So let's go ahead and transition to chapter 3. Drawing from the soul, inspiring the next generation.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was, okay, so during the time of Brother Man, like I said, a lot of it was bittersweet times, because it was, it wasn't easy. It was like, we were self-financed. We were just taking the money from the comics, putting it back into comics. Sometimes sacrificing, do we pay rent or get more comic books? And and going through that. And at the time, I had a young family. I have two sons. I mean, now they're like 33 and 27, but back then, you're dealing like 5-year-old and 3-year-olds and stuff like that. And so I remember like traveling and doing the trade shows, because we would travel all over the place. Like I said, I'd be drawing the comic books while we're driving cross country, me and my brother Jason. And so I remember one time, I think being in like Chicago or say New York or something like that, and people would say, "Hey, can you teach my baby how to draw?" Because we didn't have social media back then, so they'll look at, "Hey, what you're doing, my son likes to draw cartoons, but there's no mentors. Can you teach him how to draw?" And I was like, man, I would go home thinking about that person. Like, I didn't write it off. Like, oh, they bought a book. I don't care about them now. I got the money. Go home. I go home and I think, man, how can I reach that kid back there? That bought a Brother Man comic, and I said, you know what? I know I'm gonna make an art instructional video. Because we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have social media. There were no black art instructional videos. All we had was Bob Ross.
Yep.
Bob Ross. And then I sat down with my sons, who at the time, I think Amari was 2 and Dosi was 5. No, 7. And so I sat them down, because at this time I think we were still in East Orange, New Jersey. And I said, we were in LA. And I said, hey y'all, let's create an art instructional video. Because I include my sons in, because I wanted them to learn the process of concept to actually having a product in the market. Remember when we sat down on the couch and we talked about this? Now we're somewhere and people are buying it. You know what I mean? I want them to see that whole step, even though they were only 5 and 2. And I put them in the video. They're in the original video. And and so we said we got to come up with a name. And then we're throwing out names. And then I said, Drawn from the Soul. And I said, Drawn from the Soul. And I said, it's a double entendre. And I was telling them what that meant. I said, so it's not necessarily just drawing, it's also pulling from the soul. You're telling your story. And then this whole concept started coming out, like, man, this could be a movement. Because just like we were talking about, like with your daughter drawing anime and stuff like that, I see that over and over and over and over with our kids when they show me their portfolios. And like I said, I'm not image police. I said I never tell anybody what to draw. I said, as long as you're right. And I look at the content, the style of what you're doing, like, oh, this person is good, or this person has zeal, like they have a passion for life. I would never crush that. Right. I was just trying to emphasize, just tell your own story. Your story, it may not even have to look like you. It doesn't have to be you. It could be about ducks that go through something that that you went through, but you're telling it through these ducks. Right. And but just because I know a lot of young people who were overwhelmed by things that are out there, especially in this age of AI, Drawn from the Soul will be very important, because I almost feel bad, man. I feel bad when I hear young people commenting under these AI videos, like, there goes my career. Like they're in art school and they already feel like ain't nobody gonna want me. They're just gonna prompt the AI, and it's like, what am I gonna do with my life? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And Drawn from the Soul is almost like you have to. It's to help them see the value in themselves that they may not even see. Even with AI and all this stuff, AI still isn't you. Anything that is you is not you. You have your own story to tell. All these other great artists out there, there's always going to be a great artist out there. To me, there's no best artist, because for everybody's just different. But there's no. So Drawn from the Soul, the concept was to get to not only teach kids how to draw, but the objective was to build it up to emphasize you telling your own story, and however that story is going to be made, and having confidence in your value. Even if you do stick figures, you could have the funniest. I know you've seen stick figure animation that's probably like hilarious. Yeah, big followings. They don't have to paint like Norman Rockwell to be successful. Just do those dope stick figures with funny stories or whatever. That may be your lane. You know what I mean? So,
while you're explaining this, I'm thinking about what you said. Your father said. Your mother said, be aware of what you. What you create, and you said your father said, own what you create.
Own what you create.
Right.
And actually, own what you create is what led to Brother Man, because Brother Man. Okay, first of all, Drawn from the Soul was recognized as like the first black art instructional video. Because, like I said, before that, it was just Bob Ross. So as Tavis. Yeah, I was on the Tavis Smiley show.
Oh, okay.
2000, because the book came out. I mean, the video came out in 2000. And wait, can I show you the video real quick? I mean, just
Yeah.
so that's
Oh, nice.
the video. So
VHS.
Yep. And that's me and my sons drawing. They were little
Nice.
fellas. And we went to the playground. I had them doing figure drawings and stuff like that. 25-minute video. And the thing about it is when we did that, like now I have like grown people who like work in the industry said, man, I learned how to draw from that drawing from the Soul video.
Oh, man, how good does that feel?
That's what I'm saying, because they're grown up now. Like these are adults in their 30s who tell me that, because we got these videos into the school systems on our own. And the thing that was unique about this video, this was the first, since we made beats and stuff, this is just, we did the opening track. My cousin on the track.
Nice.
As I'm drawing, the way you see everybody on Instagram and stuff now, drawing hand over with beats, that's what this is, before people were doing that. So I said, man, we was doing that before the internet, man, drawing, having beats on it and stuff. Just all instrumental, fat, dope instrumentals with speed drawing of gesture drawing, showing people how to do shapes and basic shapes and stuff like that. It was going to be a different way of teaching kids by having like some dope beats and stuff like that. So, we was always into that trailblazing thing. And then also getting back to, this is a point that I think I want to bring up, is when my dad said, own it. Because I remember a long time ago when Style Wars first came out, the graffiti documentary by Henry Chalfant. I actually met Henry Chalfant in New York years ago. We used to go over his house, and he met a lot of the main writers, early writers in New York. Used to go to the art shows where Fab Five Freddy and them used to be, and Rocksteady.
Nice.
Yeah, and I remember back then, it's like when Style Wars came, and I was watching that with my parents, and it was just the documentary on New York graffiti. And to me, my mind was blown, like, man, I want to do that, man. That's what I want to do. And I remember my mom saying that was sad. And I was like, what do you mean that was sad? And she said, she just felt like a lot of, because she's looking at the condition of our people and how a lot of the, how they have to do this to get seen, to get their art seen, and how it's dangerous and stuff. Like, so she's looking at it from a different perspective. And my dad was saying, what happens is a lot of times that a lot of the talent in our community, people come in with the cameras, they film it, and they make all the money, and we end up a nom de plume and an enigma. And they say, you know what a nom de plume is? I was like, what? Oh, that's what my mom said. That's an enigma. It's basically you're recognized as like, I like Kes One. That was my tag. Like, do you want to be known as just Kes One, or do you want to be known for your name? Like, not to say like, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. And like I said, I was into the styles, all this stuff. I don't knock it. And a lot of people, they built their careers off of it too. But in general, there's a lot of people, they end up just getting locked up. They end up getting shot in the tunnels, or hitting the head for their spray cans with baseball bats and stuff like that, and dead bodies in the tunnels. You see what I'm saying? To express art. And I didn't want that lifestyle. So like I said, my parents didn't say that, I would have just been looking at it the same as my friends who were writers and stuff. So I don't knock it. I get it. I just said, well, and my dad said also, when they put it on the walls, it becomes public domain, which means other people, they can take your work and print it in a book, and they make the money. It's a public, there's no copyright on it because you put it on the wall. And I was like, dang, okay. So then when Brother Man came out, okay, these are my walls. So when I put graffiti in Brother Man, it was like the first comic book that really had tags and all throughout the book in the environment, in the background, like in certain areas, because it was a city. So there was some areas, it was the high-end places. This is the arts district, museum district. Down here, going down in the trains, they bombed, they dogged it down there. But they're my walls. So there's nothing illegal about it, and I own it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what and a lot of writers and stuff, I would show them how to do it. You know, because they would come to me, say, "Hey man, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? I want to do that." And me, I was never secretive about stuff. So, yo, man, you can do it. I wasn't thinking like, "Oh man, nah, this is my domain." I was like, "Nah, this is something that we all should be a part of. We all should be expressing ourselves." You know what I mean? So, so basically, so to me, Drawn from the Soul, I feel like Brother Man was drawn from the soul. That was drawn from the soul. Me, not having, like I said, not having social media and all that stuff, and just going into my mind and going into my dreams and drawing my dreams and sharing it with the world, and not worrying about what the next person is doing. And now I do find, like, even when you watch, you get up and you look at social media, it's great that now I have access to like all these murals, all these dope animations, but it's not, I'm not saying they're not special, but there was a time where, if somebody put a mural on the wall, I had to go all the way out to West Philly to experience it. Or I had to go all the way up to New York. I would take New Jersey Transit, Philadelphia SEPTA, the New Jersey Transit, to 42nd Street, whatever train, go all the way out there just to look at the wall. And I don't even think we had cameras back then. So this is the camera in our mind. And then you just stand there and maybe hang out for like an hour or so like that. And then you go home and dream about it. You see what I'm saying? Because it was special.
Yeah.
Now it's because, you look at it 3 seconds, okay, oh man, that's cool, but the person who made it, that's painstaking work they did for hours and hours. But now there's just so much that it can get lost, or you can get overwhelmed to the point where, like I said, some people, they just feel like, I give up. Oh man, oh, you're so good, you make me want to hang up. I say, you should never give up just because you feel like somebody is good, because it's all relative. Remember, somebody's looking at you as you're their inspiration.
Yeah.
So we're all here. We have to find our reasons to be here. And you don't quit on it because of what you see happening over here, because somebody else, they're looking up to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What you said is exactly true, because you have to realize that, are you a creative or aren't you? You know what I mean? Like, where is this coming from? If you're just an imitator, well, then I guess you should be worried. You know what I mean? But
exactly.
But if you are a creative, then what are you worried about? Because this is coming from a place, your creativity is coming from a place that has been cultivated for years, like we were just talking about, all these influences from when you were a kid, and what you've been exposed to, and so on and so forth, and that has formulated how you do, or your signature, or whatever. So I remember I saw a meme once, and it said, bad news, not everyone is going to like your work. Good news, not everyone is going to like your work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and I thought it was really cool. It was very impactful. But what that basically means is, I could be dope, and because of that, I have my followers. I have those that are really interested in what I do. That doesn't mean that everybody likes what I do. You got you. If I have 1 million people who like what I do, you can easily have 1 million other people, 2 million other people who don't like what I do. Okay, well then, now enter you with how you do things. Now maybe those 2 million will like your stuff. So just because I paint, you paint. Oh well, I do realism. Okay, well I do realism. I happen to get picked up quicker than you did. That doesn't mean that you stop. Because at the end of the day, I draw, my creativity is from my perspective. And when I used to do sales training, one of the things that I would teach is you cannot copy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You are never going to see things the way that person sees things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're sitting in the same room receiving the same information. It's still not going to translate in your head the same way.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's not going to go on the paper the same way. It's not going to go on the canvas the same way. It's not going to go on the laptop the same way. It's not. It's just not. And it's not supposed to. You know? So understanding that, do you?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you are a true creative, then you will do you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you are a true creative, you're not going to get caught up in, oh, so-and-so's doing this or so-and-so's doing that. And, oh, that was my area over there. This is my area over here. You know, like you said, someone was tripping when AI came out. I was like, oh, there goes my... AI is the new thing. That's it. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
When, you know, AI is the new thing and you have people who love it and people who hate it.
Yeah.
People who fear it and people who are saying, oh, that's not real art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what we was talking about. Hip hop went through the same thing. Oh, that's not real art. You know, oh, really? All you got to do is just remix over somebody's track. Well, then what am I sitting here making music with a piano and a drum when this is what's selling? You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, that doesn't mean that what you're doing now is done.
Yeah,
you know, no one else is looking for that. When digital when digital art came out, you know, Photoshop. Doesn't mean that I'm a painter. Oh, well, I guess no one's going to want a painter now that you can sit here and put a pen to a screen and and it's like, no, all this is doing is creating an area for this.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's going to attract a lot of people and it's going to go through its transition or whatever. But once again, I think and I believe that if you are a true creative, that's never going to be a problem for you, because I don't care what's going on. I don't care what's happening. I have to create. Ideas are coming in my head that I can't stop. I have to find some way to get them out. I want to find some way to get them out. And it doesn't matter what could possibly hinder that. I still got to do it because I'm a creative. It's not something, I don't have a choice. And I think that creatives need to do what your father taught you, what you have established, you know, with your business. Own your creativity, man. Own your work. If you own your work, so what? It ain't stopping nothing. I mean, you know, to make it even plainer than that, right? You know, when I was younger and I was, you know, I didn't think I had any game or whatever. You know, and my father would tell me, look, there's a whole bunch of women out there. You know, don't trip because the girl you was interested in someone else got because they said this, that, and the third. That one wasn't for you.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It is just as simple. That one wasn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
But who you are and how you are, someone else is very much going to like that.
Exactly.
You know, and you're going to like them. So don't trip on that. Just worry about being you and gravitating to the people who appreciate you for you. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be translated into your creative work. It really does.
Well, another thing too is that, like, we should, you know, like, putting in the effort to make Brother Man, especially during that time, is still beneficial to me today because, like, if I didn't do it, like, I remember when we were working on the first issue, and because, you know, we had the airbrush shop in Jersey, and East Orange, New Jersey, and we were preparing for the Black Expo New York. That's when we first did the first book. And this is in 89, and the book came out in 90. And I remember in 89, when we were working on the book, people from the neighborhood can still come into the store, you know, and maybe buy a t-shirt or something. But I was kind of phasing that out and say, we're going to start doing comic books. And I remember one guy saying, hey, man, what y'all doing? We said, oh, we're making a comic book. And he said, man, if you ain't got Marvel and DC behind you, man, you wasting your time. I said, nah, you probably be wasting your time. I ain't wasting my time. In my head like that. Like, who's thinking about DC? It's a comic book. That's like saying, like, you want to make a record well, if Capitol Records and RCA ain't behind, it's like, who's thinking about Capitol and RCA? I'm just making a record. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're in your head like that, hindering you from creating. You're not even going to create because there's other people out there who are so massive that are running industry that you're just thinking of yourself. You think of yourself so low and so small that you hinder yourself, which is great for them. It's like, hey, we don't have no competition because they don't even try.
You don't even try, right?
So if I said, yeah, you're right, man, like, man, Marvel and DC, if I did that and I caved in, never made Brother Man, it wouldn't have existed. So now where I am, like, you know, I do graphic novels. I did several graphic novels. One, Monster got picked up on, well, Monster got turned into Netflix live action version, Walter D. Myers Monster. Crossover that I did for Kwame.
Say word, that's yours?
Monster, the graphic novel.
Well, the live action, that was from you?
Well, it's all the same story. It's Walter D. Myers' story. Walter D. Myers did the original Monster in the 90s. My brother, they came to, well, actually, Walter D. Myers hit me up specifically, said, he only wanted me to draw it. And then they said, can your brother do the writing? So then my brother did the adaptation. I drew it. And right when I finished the graphic novel, Walter D. Myers passed away. The graphic novel came out in 2015, circulated, and then the Netflix piece came out later, but it's all the same story. It's all from Monster. So then I did the crossover of Kwame Alexander, and then that got turned to a live action Disney Plus series, the twin boys playing basketball. I did Victory Stand, Life of Olympic 1968 Olympic gold medalist Tommy Smith, you know, got his fist in the air.
Yeah.
On the Olympic stand. Yeah, I did his life story, so it was a pleasure working with him. And the author, Derek Barnes, you know, he hit me up because he was a fan of Brother Man back in the day. Kwame Alexander, he knew about Brother Man back in the day, and they wanted to work with. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's that boomerang effect we're talking about. The effort you put in, sometimes you don't see it. Like that's the shaded vision. You don't see what's gonna come from it. Just do it. Just do it and just put it out. Even, you know, I look at Brother Man, I'll be like, I cringe when I look at a lot of stuff because I don't draw like that anymore. And my thoughts have evolved where it's like, you know, it's just like when you reboot something, you make it better because you've grown.
Right.
Still, the foundation is there. Like, Dad, man, I did all that when I was young. I'm kind of proud of myself, but man, I'd have done that composition differently, and I knew what I was going through when I did that. You know what I'm saying? But I grew, so you can see your growth. So, and now I just finished directing an animated series that's going to drop in spring 2025 called Iyanu, Child of Wonder. And that's created by a brother named Roy Okupe from Lagos, Nigeria. And he got a deal with Lionforge Animation, which is a black-owned animation studio in St. Louis. And I was brought on as a director, and I directed six episodes and also worked on other episodes. So it's my first time working on a major first time directing a major animated series that's going to be on major streaming platforms. It's going to be on Cartoon Network, Max, and Showmax Africa. So it's going to be on 44 nations in Africa, and they're still working on getting it in more areas. And it's like the work I did back in the day is still bringing me other work, because I've done stuff for like film and television, and those things are still, everything that you do is like, it still circulates, and next thing you know, somebody's calling you up. Because I rarely put out resumes. I've rarely even searched for jobs. I'm grateful for it. Like I'm always saying, like, man, I live my life by faith, man, by Imani, man. Like I for some reason things just come through, and I'm always grateful for it. And that's why I tell other people, I say, hey man, just you got to believe in yourself. You got to invest into yourself, because we're always investing into other people's companies, other people's ideas. We make money for them, but then we don't think that, well, don't you think that you're worth the same that you're helping these companies make? They're making all this money, and they may say, well, I'm not doing it by myself. You know, there's a whole team. And that's don't see, now you're playing yourself down.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's what they want you to do, so they can give you a low salary. So keep thinking yourself as not being valuable, so that way you don't ask for much when you go somewhere, when they know, like, man, we're getting a deal with this guy. You know, we pocket the rest of the money we were about to give them. You see what I'm saying? So you have to see yourself. And I think going back to like when we were talking about how people see us as a people, and then even our own people see us,
right?
Like we're supposed to be in a box. We're supposed to be of a certain caliber, and that's why they push so much stuff out on us in mass media that's debased. Everything is the worst of our culture, and then worldwide people say, "Oh, that's black culture. That's what a black American is." Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So when that gets pushed so much, it's really for us to devalue ourselves, and in a way it does make us feel devalued. And if you are the type of person that you know your worth, you speak up and say, I'm great, I'm this. Oh man, you all into yourself. Oh, all you care about, you know what I'm saying? Like when you speak greatness of yourself, which you should, because really who else will? It's like, oh, he's full of himself, he doing it. So then you don't want to be labeled that, so then you shrink. Oh man, you know, because when I was young, I remember I used to never want to say that I was great. I still don't really talk like that, but I know better now. Like I can say that I'm great, but when I was younger, I remember my art teacher, he said, you know you're good, right? And I was just like, I mean, you know, I'm just always being humble.
Oh, wow.
Saying like, you have to, you know it. You have to know it within yourself. There's nothing wrong with you knowing that you're great. Because what's the opposite? I'm not great.
I'm not great.
Yep. You know what I'm saying? And then people outside, especially among our people, we're kind of taught, like when we see somebody winning, especially if somebody's enjoying that moment of when they're winning, we get into that hate mode, as opposed to celebrate. Like I'm happy when somebody else is doing real good, even if it's in the realm that I'm in. I'm like, you know, because I'm confident with what I do, and I want them to do well. I want younger people to do well. It's like, I'm not going to be here forever, so I'm going to try to give what I can to younger kids, that information. Like my older son, he works on blockbuster films and does compositing and special effects and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And when he was a little, he's the older one on the video. So
okay.
He was a little fella. You know, he always said, I want to work on blockbuster films. I want to do like sci-fi and stuff like that. And now it's like, yo, man, you're doing it. You're living the dream of what you spoke, because nobody ever shut it down. I never said, man, you can't do it. Man, that's a white man's thing. That ain't that kid to be, man, you should be playing ball. You should be on, you know, that's not what he wants to do. So that we think, that he has aspirations of a white boy. And I just remember like that being in our community so much that used to piss me off. Like, why are we always like shut down? Especially when I see it now, when some people do that with younger people. And because we live in a different era now, because now like nerd culture and all that stuff is more acceptable. So kids are doing so many different types of things.
Different things,
They break down
back in the day, that was not it. That wasn't it at all.
Business, you know, you get clown, people want to beat you up, girls to you. You know, you into Iron Man and all that stuff. I remember that because I always had my comic books, and he like, comic books, and he always talking about Star Wars, and it used to make me feel like corny and stuff like that. Now it's just like girls be like talking about, there's that, Iron Man. I'm going to see the new Avengers, and I'm like, what?
When did this happen?
This happened. Why did I miss a memo or something? Times definitely has changed, man. So, but yeah, I just say like overall, we just have to talk ourselves up, and it doesn't mean like lose sight of it's like there's a way that you speak yourself up without sounding like you're just so gassed on yourself or something.
Yeah, there is a importance and a need in self-confidence, not conceit.
Yeah, oh man, it's just in my head when I was thinking of oh man, it'll probably come back. We'll keep going. I think we
come back to you. You know, it's funny. Everything that you said, I've been resonating with almost everything you said, except for the things that I have yet to experience myself. But one thing in particular, and I want to use that as us going into the next segment, where I ask the 6 questions or 5 or 6 questions that I ask all the creatives that I interview. Starting with question number 1, do you consider yourself a creative?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I always love the responses I get from this. It seems to be a pretty straightforward question. Like, yes, I definitely do. Boom. But then I've had people elaborate on it. One creative didn't consider herself a creative, and the reason she's forgetting what's his name. Okay, I can't remember her name, but anyway, she is the CEO and founder of Afro Style magazine. I'm pretty sure her name will come to me. But anyway, when I asked her that question, she said, "No, I don't consider myself creative." She said, "I don't think I wouldn't consider myself creative." She said, "I don't think so." And I had to, I was like, "Well, let me, if I may, you told me that when you were younger, you were, this little girl, and you were cutting out photos in magazines and setting them up in certain ways, and creating your own little type magazine. And then on top of that, you're a editor-in-chief of a very big magazine. I mean, you have a vision. If you have a vision and you have found a way to carry it out, you are a creative. There's no other way to look at that. People, you said that you didn't even know that people in India were looking at your magazine one time, and it's like, you're the one who put this together. How could you not consider yourself a creative?
Well,
and I asked, I remember, just like you were saying, I remember when I was younger, people would, say, "Oh, you're really good. You're an artist," and I was always hesitant to be like, "Yeah, The reason being is, I always had people that I really admired in their work. And if it wasn't some, a neighborhood kid that I saw drawing, or if it wasn't my brother, or if it, later on wasn't some professional, I was always thinking about their work. So if I was painting, I had a specific painter in mind. When someone said, "Oh, you're really good," and I'd be like, "My stuff's okay," and I'm thinking about someone else's painting that I really admire. If I'm drawing, I'm like, "Oh, my stuff's okay," and I'm thinking about some other illustrator or something. I'm like, I'm not on that level, and so because of that, as a humble way, I didn't doubt my work, but I just was like, I just kept thinking about theirs, and it's like, how dare I give myself the same title I would give them? I'm not on, I just, but so it wasn't until later on in life that I started to be like, no, I am a creative. I am just as good, their stuff is different. It went from a level, it went from, I still admired those that I admired, but it transformed to, my understanding is, I can still admire your work and still believe that I'm on the same level as you. you know, and that's kind of what ended up happening with me.
Well, I would, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because it got me. Actually, the first thing what I was trying to remember was when hip hop came along, like the early days of hip hop. You know, you had the bravado, braggadocious. I'm number one. I'm the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
I'm bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was like, man, it's okay for them to say it, but in the world of art, we don't talk like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the visual arts. But
right.
In rap, you don't say, I'm okay. You know, where a rapper saying, I'm an okay rapper. You know, hey, you see what I can do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Oh, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to come full force in hip hop.
Yeah, you got to come correct.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so how come in visual arts, we should be coming like full force?
Yeah.
You want to come out and say, yeah, I'm number two. I'm number two. All these everybody else in here. But you know, it's like, oh man, because even though they say they're number one, you knew they were good, but you also know this person was good and that person was good. I understood they're saying that to put them like, it's like they're selling themselves to you.
Yeah, you're your own hype man.
You're your own hype man. You know what I'm saying? And as far as like the creative aspect, because if I was really to think about it, I said it went in so many different levels. Like when I thought about it, I said, yeah, I'm definitely creative. I think of my whole life's journey has been the creative, because it's not just visual arts, you know, like picking up on music, listening to my mom. My mom was always talking about how when you listen to music, what do you see? You know, and then ever since then, like I'll listen to tracks and I just zone out and I see images, and music helps me with images.
Yeah.
Then, as I was getting older, I started understanding the God power within, you know, because my birth name was David Sims. I changed my name 27 years ago when my second son was born.
Okay.
And Dawud Anyabwile, that's the name that kind of where I chose a name really for my family. It was just basically for my family, because I was looking at the family tree and I was looking at, you know, Sims, and everything went back to Bailey Plantation, Lyles Plantation, this and that. And you know, it's like, okay, I don't know the full story here because a lot of the information got lost. And I said, but as a creative, somebody came with the name Sims and passed it down, and everybody followed it. So I'm going to create the name for my next generation. And I saw Anyabwile, which is from the L.O.S.T, Tanzania, and it means God has unchained me. And I didn't choose it to go to Tanzania. I didn't choose it. It didn't have anything to do with the culture of Tanzania. It just had to do with the definition. I thought the definition was so dope. Yeah. And that's it. Because I was going through that transition. You know, I stopped. That's when I became plant-based. When my second son was born, I had a lot of more physical ailments back. I had a regular heartbeat. At one point, I wanted to be a naturopath healer. I still do. I was taking iridology, where I look in your eye and see what's going on with you. And natural healing and health became a big deal to me because my parents had just passed. My mom died of an aneurysm, and a year later, my dad died of lymphoma cancer. My brother Michael, my oldest brother, he had a brain tumor from bumping his head, but there was a lot of drugs that they put him on. So then I was looking at the drug system, all that stuff, because it was impacting my family. And so as a creative, you know, I went through a lot of pain. There were times where I was like just crying all the time, stuff like I used to think something wrong with me, man. Why am I crying all the time? Because I'm thinking about what I lost with my family and man and all that stuff. I didn't create it by myself. It was created from the family. And when the family is gone, it's like you're holding up something by yourself that, you know, the family's not there with you. You see what I'm saying? So it's like a constant pain. So to me, it was like there's a higher power, there's a higher reason. It was bigger than comic books. You know, and so the creativity is not just for you to create something and say, yo, I'm cool, you know, like I said, like, oh, I'm number one. Yeah, I mean, I say that so then we have it's like almost like a survival mode. So then people can't downplay our value. but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm better than, nobody else can compete. It's like, now it's really for me to
Yeah. It's affirmation.
affirmations. Exactly.
Right.
So with understanding the God power, I even looked at Anyabwile as God has unchained me, because I told my sons when they were little, and my ex-wife at the time, she still carries the name. And I said, because I remember she said at first, she said, isn't that going to be hard for people? No, isn't that going to be complicated for people to say? I said, well, we're complicated people. So you learn how to say Nugan, Mitsubishi, Hyundai. They can say Anyabwile. We teach them how to say it. You know what I'm saying? And then and then I started understanding, like, so I say God has unchained me. I don't look at like an external God sprinkling magic dust on me. It meaning the God within waking up, and recognizing my true power, recognizing who I am, the greatness within, that the creativity that's bestowed upon all of us is not just given to us just for us to make money. It's to change the dynamics of this world and to influence and to influence this world. I remember my brother Guy, the writer, he said one time, he said, I'm the eyes. What he said? No, I'm the mouth of God. You're the hand of God. Because he was talking about, like, in ancient Kemet, Egypt, the scribes. You have the scribes, and Guy said, I'm one of the scribes. And the scribes, they speak directly from God. Like, basically, they're writing the words of God.
Mm-hmm.
You're drawing the images of God. And so once you see that, it goes back to what my mom is saying. What do you do? What does your work mean? Because when you see out that element of whatever your spirituality is, or whatever higher power or greater understanding than you, because we're part of this greater existence in the universe. In our life journey, we start to find answers. We start to understand ourselves on deeper levels. So then we start seeing our creativity not just as an ego thing. We see it as something that's powerful, something that this is our superpower. You see what I'm saying? So we should respect it. It's just like if you give a kid an AK-47, but you didn't teach them the value of it. This is something that could protect the home. Here's how you use it. Here's how you load it. Never point it at somebody. If you didn't teach them that, and they just get an AK off the street, they're shooting their own family. They're shooting their own people, because they got all this power, and there's no mentorship to it. So that's why when we see a lot of our talent, a lot of our music out here, it's talented people. I don't take away and say, I can't say that this person's not talented just because they're rapping about something I don't agree with or whatever. I'm just saying, I think a lot of what they're producing is because of the mentorship or lack of mentorship, or with some people, it's just the pursuit of the economics at any expense, because they're just thinking ego, as opposed is what I'm creating going to be something that's going to be better for my community and better for my grandchildren. Because we think in the moment, I just want to get this for now so I can floss. But what you're creating is going to have an impact that's going to affect your grandchildren down the line. So let's rebuild. And that's really the theme of what the Brother Man comic was about. Him trying to rebuild something that's falling apart, because the city's falling into decay. He's trying to rebuild it, but can't do it on his own. So to me, that's what I'm saying. I was trying to simplify the creativity thing, but it goes in a lot of different angles.
You can't simplify that, good brother. This next question is, I'm going to ask it, but it's very interesting, and I'm going to, after you answer, I'm going to explain the influence you have with this question. Okay. The influence you played in the question. All right. So the question is, what's the most challenging thing about being a creative, in particular, an illustrator?
I would say the most challenging for me, wow, being an illustrator. Oh, well, for me, I would say sometimes it's the freedom, like because I do a lot of client work, which is great, but ultimately my objective is to be free. Is like I'm creating with no deadlines. I
Right.
can go anywhere in the world. I don't have to rush home to finish something. I can just create because I feel like I haven't really created what I really want to create. I've been doing a lot of projects and I love the projects that I'm doing and I'm learning off of each project. But at this point in my life, I get frustrated because I want to I'll say frustrated. It's not like I'm sitting at home frustrated.
Yeah,
Uh,
I get you.
but if I had to just look into well, what's the frustration? Because I don't really have a lot of frustrations in what I do. But if I was to say it, I say, well, this is the main thing that comes up. I just want to be free. And that's what I've been working on is my financial freedom. So then I can do whatever I want to do. Even if I want to switch from illustration to woodworking or learn how to do clay, in a lot of cases, I want to move away from the computer. I want to move back to traditional fine arts.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's pretty much it with me.
Gotcha. So I was I was interviewing Arande.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and he was the one who told me about you. And by the way, you are a huge inspiration to that brother. He took to you very well, and he's very thankful for all that you've shown him and taught him and how you grew his craft. So he has nothing but good things to say about you.
Mm-hmm.
Very thankful for your mentorship and tutelage. When I asked him that same question, initially, it was what is the most difficult thing about being a creative? And he said, nah, see, Brother Dawud would be like, what's all this difficulty? No, there's no difficulty, there's challenges. And I said, I love that. I'm going to change the way I ask this question moving forward.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that is what's up. So yes, good brother, you have made a permanent impact on the L.O.S.T Creatives podcast. I changed the wording because I loved when he said it. I immediately understood the perspective, and I said, "That's right. Forget the difficulty crap. Challenges. I love it. I'm going to change the wording." So
I would credit my mom because that's the type of thing my mom would say to us.
Okay.
Check us on a lot of stuff, and then I live with it and pass it on. And just real briefly, because I was going to say this before, at one point in '95, after my parents passed away, we opened Big City Comics world headquarters in Philly, and that's where we're starting to do the Brother Man, continuing the Brother Man Comics legacy. And we were teaching art. We were going to start teaching art classes in the neighborhood, and we opened up in our neighborhood in Northwest Philly. And I remember when we first advertised for it, Arande was the first person to sign up for class. He came in it was like after hours. He was like 19 years old. He came in off the street and said, "Hey, art classes?" And we like, yeah. He signed up right then and there because he said he was about to join the military. And he said, but when he saw that, he said, "Man, forget the military." He said, "Man, y'all saved me from being out there dodging bullets." You know what I'm saying? And then we became best friends ever since then. Like, matter of fact, part of me changing my name was inspired by a conversation with Arande and this other brother, Chinyelu. And I would be painting murals and stuff in the store. It was a go-to place for kids all over the city. Everybody came to Big City World headquarters, and it was a place to commune. So yeah, he's a really good brother. And actually, I learned from him now because there's a lot of things he teaches me, and it's all good. We just share with each other.
Well, I mean, that's that's a beautiful cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just I do for you, and then in doing for you, in doing for someone, they gain their own experiences, and then now, they can translate that into something different that, the mentor can pick up on.
Exactly.
Because none of us know it all about whatever it is that we're working in, so it's a beautiful cycle.
Mm-hmm.
As a creative, if you had time, you may have already mentioned this, but if you had the time, what art form would you like to get into and become really good at? If you actually had the time to sit and focus and, really become good at it, learn, study, and then now that's the thing that you're doing. If you had the time, what art form would that be?
Oil painting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like I do it, but I don't get to focus on painting. And I study painting. I see stuff people are doing. I'll be like, I could do that. But whenever I start to paint, I get frustrated because I'm going from digital straight to painting, and you have to think differently. It takes time to move it. If you mess up, oh man, I can't undo it.
Mm-hmm.
I mix the colors.
Nope, can't undo it. There's tricks of the trade when it comes to painting, because I'm a painter, but you can't undo it. No.
Yeah. So you can't go there like thinking digitally, and so that's why I said ultimately that to me that's an easy one. Oil painting. If I master oil painting, well, I'll say when I master oil painting in my lifetime, I'm good. I can get to animation. If I do animation, cool. If I learn 3D and do all that other stuff, that's cool. But that's not the desire. The desire is to have paintings all in my house. I have paintings downstairs, but I want to have like that gallery painting.
Right.
It's not even like if I want to put comic type stuff in there, cool, but show people a whole nother side of myself.
Oh no, yeah, on a different level. It's something else.
Yeah, like I already know what's in me. I already look at stuff. I could do that, but I just didn't do it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a good question. I really like that.
What are you? Oh, I'm sorry. No, as a matter of fact, be right before that. Who would you say? I'm wording this question properly here. Who was the creative that inspires you the most, and why?
Well, I guess I would have to say, I guess it comes down to like, I had to say Overton Lloyd from Parliament Funkadelics. He did the artwork. He did the Sir Nose Devoid of Funk art and like a lot of those Parliament Funkadelic artwork. So I had to just think of quickly who came to mind when you said it, because when I started the process, then I started thinking of a bunch of names like Ernie Barnes from Good Times and Mort.
Yeah, he was very good.
But I say, well, really, if I would say the first, it was Overton Lloyd, because I remember seeing his artwork in the Flashlight. I think it was Flashlight album, Parliament Funkadelics. And that's when I first saw it, like, man, look how he's drawing black people. Like, they look cool, He does the lips and the hair curl up over the mustache over the lips. So coming out of burning my Marvel comics and then seeing Overton Lloyd, it was like he filled the gap, because it was still cartoons, but it was like these black characters. I didn't understand the stories because Parliament was over my head. They had a funky soundtrack. Everybody was into Flashlight and all that stuff.
Yeah, they was over a lot of people's heads.
yeah. So as a kid, like, I didn't get the story, but the artwork was funky.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I would say that was one of the biggest transitional experiences that kind of led me down a whole new path after Marvel.
Okay. And the last question in this segment: what are you the most thankful for as it relates to your creative journey?
Everything. Like, I can't even think of one thing. It's like the whole journey to me is like a story that was already written, and I'm living it out, and like all the elements of the story, even to me now, like stuff is making more sense to me. Some of the things, like even the pain that I went through, like I said, losing my parents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not, this is kind of weird sometimes because I say, hey, if mom and dad didn't pass away, I'd probably be 300 pounds now because I'd probably still be eating Philly cheesesteaks. I wouldn't be thinking about health. I'd be sitting down drawing all the time. I wouldn't be assessing why I have irregular heartbeats. But at the same time, it doesn't mean like I'm glad my parents died. It's just, that's just what happened.
No, I understand what you're saying.
It's that's just what happened, and each thing led to this and led to this. It's almost like a script somebody wrote. You see what I'm saying? And I'm just living the script. So things that were considered bad or bad experiences evolved into dynamic experiences and changes. And I know I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of people, they go through things that it was their darkest time in life, and that darkest time is what made the greatest thing in their life. So that's why I'm just thankful for everything. Like if I give you something here and there, I'm just kind of nitpicking, but the overall, it's the whole journey. And I got to write a memoir. Actually, I wrote 17 pages, but I really have to finish it, even though it's not done yet. Because to me, I still sometimes wonder, how my life get like this? Like, I never thought of myself as best artist, and like, how's these opportunities coming to me? It'd be like me, it's just me. Like, that's how I be feeling. Like, how'd this happen? But it's not for me to ask, it's for me to continue to execute at the best of my ability, because I see how it's helping other young people and, your peers and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I guess that's why. Let me push that.
Right. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's like, obviously, we're not sitting back saying, oh, well, if mom hadn't died, then this wouldn't have happened. So I'm thankful that she did. Who says that, right? But, I said this quote on the show many times before, and I'll say it again. It's just one of my most favorite quotes because it just means so much. Okay, so let me jump ahead. I'm Muslim, and in the Quran, Allah states that He created man in struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote I was thinking of was Frederick Douglass' quote. He said, "Without struggle, there is no progress."
Exactly. Yeah.
You dig? Mm-hmm. So it's like, no, we don't say, "Yeah, Lord, give me hardship so I can become better." I mean, that would be dumb. You don't ask for that. You try to achieve without the hardships and without the pain and all the stuff. But it is very much a reality of life, and for reasons that we could never fully understand. But certainly what we have seen, especially as creatives, there is so much that comes from, there's so much of our creativity, our creative work, that we accredit back to something that took place. Something that took place that had a very heavy effect on us. Positive and negative. Mm-hmm. You've seen excuse me. You've seen Robert Townsend's The 5 Heartbeats.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember that scene in the movie where towards the end where he said that he was at some record release party or whatever, and he heard a critic talking about him, overheard them speaking, and he said his name in the movie was, Donald Matthews. He said, Donald Doug Matthews will become a much better writer when he suffers more.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but now I understand, because in the movie he had a situation.
Yeah.
But you think about it, like some of the greatest songs we have ever heard, we love, came from someone's pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Some of the best love songs, I Lost You songs, are some of our favorites. I Miss You songs are some of our favorites. I Don't Need You No More. You know what I'm saying? It's just people are going through things, and because we're creative, we're gonna take that. I got my background. I got Bob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, wonderful artist. This was because of a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And he's writing all these songs that we all grew to love. Because he's trying to make something happen. And trying to raise awareness. So is that to say that, well, dag, if you weren't trying to, if liberation wasn't a concern of yours, then we would have never had this great music. No one says silliness like that. But the fact of the matter is, it is very much like Frankie Beverly, said, the joy and pain, right? We need them both. They're here, they exist.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're here and they exist, then how does it not have the right to widely influence our creativity?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's got to. I would definitely say that I am very thankful for the situations that I have had, that made me better in whatever way. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't change what I learned from it if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that I would do anything to have another day with my mother?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. You know what I'm saying? But a character that I wrote because of what I felt when she was gone, I mean, it's priceless.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's priceless. But I mean, it's and then the world would be lesser if it wasn't for us and our creativity and the experiences, even the harsh ones, if we hadn't gone through them. You know
what?
That progress, because that progress is coming from that.
Mm-hmm. No. I think what we're talking about right now, this is that drawing from that soul moment, because this is like when people talk about AI, I say AI can't draw from the soul. It doesn't have a soul.
Nope.
It can only copy. Like what you just said, your character coming from what you experienced with your mother, that's a lifetime of emotions, lifetime of experience, happiness, drama, fun times, sad times, and you're putting it into artwork. AI can only copy that. AI cannot express that. AI can't come on a podcast and talk about why they made that painting. And this is what I try to tell young people.
Yep.
Forget that stuff. You have a soul. I said it makes replications of how we create. But if there's an art show, people go to the art show because they want to hear your story. They want to hear your journey. If you have an AI art show, you're just looking at artwork. Nobody's there to talk about, unless they generate some fake thing with a fake history that you're supposed to feel. I said, but when you talk to real people that really feel things, that's what makes the art powerful. I mean, that the art's already powerful, but that's what you really take home. It's like, dang, now you go back and look at the painting and said, man, I didn't realize when he did this painting, that somebody passed away halfway through this painting, and the painting was sitting there for 2 years. Then he came back and finished it. You see what I'm saying? Like AI did in 5 seconds.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So they don't have our story. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, authenticity is is unique in itself, and you can get close. You can get close, but you're never going to get the same thing. I've purchased many bootlegs that were on point. Many bootlegs that were on point. Many bootleg DVDs that were they were great. But then when the real DVD was out and I got that,
I see. He's like, what
nah, yeah. I mean, I ain't even front. I found me on the A train. I found my really good bootleg DVD, man. Yes, sir.
A couple dollars.
Yeah, man. And I mean, it was good. Like, it was good. There was no.
I get it. I used to get them too.
Yeah, but that ain't like that DVD you get from the store. It's just always going to be something not quite. So the last segment is Take It to the Gut, GUT, which stands for Giving Up the Tangibles. Resources to help those creatives who are starting out, as illustrators and want to be able to get where you are. So to help give them, some guidance. Leading off with question number 1, as far as that's related, what should creatives do, specifically illustrators? Number 1, what should they do to get better at illustrating?
Well, I think for this particular question, I would say there's no one thing to do. I can't even say here's how you should do it, because everybody out there is different. Everybody's walking a different path. Everybody has a different objective. But what I would say would be the common denominator is not to give up. Like, whatever it is that you're doing, you're pursuing, don't lose I can't tell somebody not to lose a passion, but just do it with as much vigor as you can. Always try to enjoy what you can, because once you lose the enjoyment, people can see it. People see when you enjoy doing something, and they can see, oh, they were struggling through this. So just try to enjoy what you do. Circle yourself around people who support you, who will lift you up with the words that they share. Don't hang, if you got to cut off people that, if they're bringing you down. And the reason why I bring that up, because it has a lot to do with our creativity. It's sometimes the circle that you choose to be around. If you're around people that
very much
hating on you, or you do something good and you notice, like, man, they never really they never give me any feedback, even if it's a compliment or a critique. They never look at it and be like, okay, then you can probably sense something, because it's important to have that support around you. I also say exercise. Sometimes we think about, like, just moving forward as get better at art. You also want to fine tune your body, because as an artist, we sit a lot. And when we sit a lot, we see a lot of big artists, they be like 300 pounds, 200, that, and we start to neglect our health. So what is our art if we're not going to be here long? If we cut our life short, or we're always sick. We're always sick, and it's like, you want to be in the best mental space. Go take walks. Walking is really good. Get those steps in, because it clears your mind. It helps you. Then you feel better, and then when you feel better, have to go to the gym, do your walks and stuff like that. And then when you sit down at the art table, you worked out already. Now you can get in, because a lot of times artists, we may not be the athlete. We may not be super athletic. We look outside of ourselves like, oh, I'm not like that person. And it's like, well, you're not that person, but you should still take your health seriously. Think about what you're consuming. Try to consume things that are good for you, because all those things help your psychology. Putting down drugs and stuff like that alter your body chemistry. I just think for me, that's something that I feel is important, more so than just saying keep drawing, because I think a lot of people, they understand keep drawing, Also find your path. I always tell people like, yo, you don't want to be like me. You want to be like you.
Mm-hmm.
I came up in a different era. I never say I'm the best at something, even though we were talking about me being number one.
Yeah.
Like, meaning that I also understand that a lot of things in my life, like I said, it's like this script. Things were happening because it was almost like the perfect storm.
Mm-hmm.
It probably can't be replicated that way. Arsenio
Right.
Hall isn't around anymore. America's Most Wanted, that's my story.
Right.
T-shirts, it's not like it was back then. But y'all got a different type of technology. The world is different. So the bottom line is, you don't really want to do things exactly the way I did it. You want to do things that keep you excited. Do things that are fun. That becomes your story. That becomes your journey. That's what makes you unique.
Right.
Don't try to be like anybody else. You can be inspired by others, but don't get lost in them. And that's all back to the drawing from the soul. Go listen to yourself, listen to your inner self, and show us who you are. And then when you do that nobody can take that from you. Nobody can take your stories and they can replicate, like you were saying, but they're not you. So that's the main thing, is finding, once you find out who you are and you own it and you enjoy it, they're not even going to be thinking about my story anymore, because they're going to be in their story, and then I'll be sitting back there saying, man, that is a dope story right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they owned it. They're owning their journey now. So that's pretty much all I could think of.
That's great. It's funny. You started off one way, and then you made it broader, but it still remains specific, if that makes sense.
Oh, wait, in what I just said just now.
In your response, yeah.
I don't know how. All I know is how I see it, but I don't know how you hear it.
I would like to think I heard it the way you said.
It's cool. I mean, I said, hey, if I got brought up, cool.
Yeah, no. And what should they do to best promote their work as an illustrator?
Well, you use social media and stuff like that, but I think also getting out into you have the internet world, and then you have real world experiences, like going to conventions, going out. It doesn't have to be conventions, like say you like drawing cars, go to car shows. Take your work, have your work, be out among people in addition to doing your internet world. And then also, what worked for us back in the day, that if you can do it now, I think it's a plus, is find the value in what you're doing and create press releases, because that's what we did. We always, whenever we were doing something that we thought was newsworthy, we would send it to the press, because the more stories that you can get is free advertisement. And like try to promote yourself, social media, platforms, podcast platforms, so people can know you. People can once people know you, that adds another depth to your artwork. Because when they see your artwork, they say, oh, that's one thing. But then when people start knowing you and say, wow, I like how this person, I like their delivery, I like what they talked about, I like what they're about. I didn't realize that when I saw the drawings before. Now I go back in the drawings and I see something bigger, because I feel like I'm getting to know the artist more. So that's something that I would suggest.
That's very good. I like that suggestion.
Cool.
Okay, Brother Dawud, please take this time to give all your handles, sites, ways that you would like people to get in contact with you or keep up with your work, take this time now to provide those things to everybody listening.
Okay, I'm on Instagram at my first name, Dawud, Dawud _Anyabwile, Anyabwile. Also, my website is anyabwile.com. Same last name, Anyabwile. I also have a YouTube channel that I'm just starting called Drawing from the Soul. So just go to YouTube, look for the Drawing from the Soul channel. It's new, so I don't know if it pops up right away when you type it, but it should be there because it's there. It's the Drawing from the Soul channel, and that's where I like sharing sketches and things like that. And I also have a Brother Man Comics IG page, and that's Brotherman COMIX. And that one's not very active right now because I'm not promoting Brotherman that much. But you can at least reach me through there. But the best one to reach me through, I would say, is the Dawud Anyabwile on Instagram.
Okay. And by the way, when you type in Drawing from the Soul, it comes up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it comes up.
Yeah.
Okay. We've been speaking for over 2.5 hours, good brother.
That's what's up.
Good, yeah, it's been great. I want to thank you very much for taking out the time in your busy schedule, because I know you got a lot going on, and that's a great thing to have. But you still made time to do this and to be a guest. I really do appreciate. Your journey is really interesting. I speak to so many magnificent and unique and brilliant creatives, but I must say this is the first time that I was able to speak with a creative of such pioneering magnitude.
Oh, good.
I'm very taken aback by what you have been able to accomplish, what you have started, what you have done for the culture, not just the creative culture, but for the Black culture. And it's clearly been massively impactful for those who are aware and those who aren't. Just thinking about it, I'm more humbled that I was fortunate enough to be able to speak with you. You are truly one of the most amazing creatives that I have had the pleasure of speaking with, and just amazing creative in general. Thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you very much for your influence on the way we view Black people in comics and illustration, just in general, for paving so many different ways. Good brother. I mean, you are truly a pioneer, and thank you very much.
And thank you too. And I really appreciate you having me on. This really means a lot to me because I've always been about just grassroots promotion, building alliances with each other, and even your mission, reaching out to those voices that are out there, because with all the chatter and all the technology and things like that, so many of us we can get lost in the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're pulling this together. You're giving people a voice, and I really appreciate that. And for me, it's an honor to be part of it. I said, I was really looking forward to it. And Rondé, once he just gives me the word on something, I say, bro, you already know. I'm in, and I do the same for him, so it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and I wish you the best moving forward in everything that you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dawud Anyabwile.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much once again. Thank you, everyone listening, watching, tuning in. Black and brown creatives everywhere. Please continue to watch and subscribe and download on YouTube and Spotify and Apple, all the other various channels. Please continue to enjoy and support, the L.O.S.T Creatives podcast. It's only going to continue to grow, and I'm going to continue to speak with more and more brilliant, pioneering creatives, and the list is just going to get larger and be more in depth. So thank you, everybody, once again. Always remember, always remember and know you are creative, and tell me your story.